Old boss told me to contact his lawyers. So I did, by user Exodus Equipments. Just quick disclaimer. This is a burner account, because my real account gives away where and from and who I am, and if anybody I know see this post, I will be easily recognizable. So this started some time back. I got fired from my job due to an injury, and had to be hospitalized for a significant time. In my contract it stated that if had more than XXX amount of sick days in a 12-month period, I could get my contract terminated with 1 month notice. So that happened, and of course I contacted my union. They told me it was a legal termination, but they asked about a specific part of my contract which was about my commission. Turns out I've missed out on some special commission during my employment and totally missed it when I read my contract when I got employed. Can't really get closer to which kind of commission due to my anonymity. My union advised me to contact the boss, show him the part of my contract, and proof of the missing commission and try to get a settlement. I was looking for what is equivalent to 3,000 euros. I went to see my boss, and started with a nice chat. After about 10 minutes I brought up the issue, and showed him my contract and showed him that I've never gotten the commission stated in the contract. My boss told me straight up to contact his lawyers, and that we were done talking and told me to leave. Cue malicious compliance. I went home, looked every paycheck through and set up a meeting with a lawyer. We found a lot of small mistakes on my paychecks and summed it all up. We sent an official letter to his lawyers, and got an answer from them a few days later. Now he was willing to settle for first amount, equivalent to 3,000 euros, I smiled and laughed. No can do, Mr. Boss Man. Not anymore. Now I want the full amount, which is equivalent to 10 euros and pension plus 15% in damages and all the legal fees. And I have proof of everything to back up my claim. Due date of the court. And guess what? He lost big time. I've now planned a nice vacation and still have more money than I asked for in the first place. Edit, spelling. It doesn't pay to snoop then accuse the boss, by user KenKanakistan_12. Not a super grand MC, but it was my pettiest moment when it's come to work for sure. First some background, I own a tanning salon, and it is open from 9 AM to 9 PM every day. There are usually 5 to 6 girls working part-time there, and the pay is $12 an hour plus cash commissions on the things they sell, packages, lotions. It's worth noting that it's a small non-chain business in a college town. All of the paychecks are kept in a drawer, in individual envelopes with the employees' names on them taped shut. They pick up their envelope on payday, and it has worked well except for one instance. One employee decided to open everyone's envelopes to see their pay, and she was livid that one girl was getting paid $2 more an hour. Instead of just asking me about it, she decided to blast the employee group chat and accuse me of ripping them off, etc. Before you think the same thing, it's worth noting again that this is a college town with all college-age workers. Which for my particular salon it has meant it's very hard to consistently have someone who wants to close weekends. They are all usually going home, have plans, want to study, etc. I try to be super accommodating, and I work around everyone's schedules to the best of my ability. If someone says they cannot work, I do not ask questions, I just accept it and plan accordingly. So, the reason this girl made a little extra was because she offered to close both days every weekend because she didn't mind. She didn't want as many week hours, so I offered to pay her a little extra because it was so difficult a lot of the times to schedule that. Plus those 2 days can be a little slow, so commissions are usually not as good. I guess the girl who snooped never bothered to look at the schedule to see if there was maybe a reason that girl made a little more, even though she really didn't because she worked so few hours. Cue malicious compliance. I explained the situation to all of the girls. I told the snooper that since she was right, totally a rip-off, I would make sure to fix it. I started scheduling both the snooper and my weekend closer every weekend night for the next 3 weeks. I really only needed one person working, but I had done a terrible wrong that needed to be made right. At the extra pay for the snooper, of course. I would have done it longer, but she apologized and said she was totally fine going back to how it was because she wanted her weekends back and the extra pay wasn't worth it. I guess we could have decided that together if she had just talked to me in the first place instead of jumping to conclusions. The scheduler and management refused to let me switch schedules after scheduling me to close at 11 PM and open at 5 AM. Okay, I will call in, and the other bookkeeper will not answer her phone, by user honest_star7348. Several years ago, I was a bookkeeper for a huge home improvement store. As a bookkeeper, I arrived at 5 AM to prepare for the store opening and/or stayed until 11 PM for closing. There were two of us, but for some reason, the scheduler and management would have one of us close and open the following day. We had a part-timer who worked 4 to 6 nights a month because she was in school. She did not open. The other bookkeeper closed and opened without complaining. But for me, that was absurd. Leaving the store at 11 p.m. and returning at 5 a.m. is unreasonable. We spoke with the scheduler and management to no avail. So, whenever the schedule came out, we switched if one of us was scheduled to close and open. The scheduler and management noticed but kept quiet because someone was there to do the work, although they continued scheduling us to close and open for years. Eventually we got a new scheduler and manager who wanted to flex their authority over all departments and demanded the other bookkeeper, and I worked the printed scheduled hours. We maliciously complied. The following schedule had me closing and opening. I closed and called in the next morning. They tried calling the other bookkeeper, but she did not answer. I asked her not to respond. The part-timer could not work because she had school. No one else was trained in bookkeeping, not even management. This meant they needed to contact me for instructions on opening the store. I was paid a minimum of 15 minutes for each call they made. If the call exceeded 15 minutes, I was paid a minimum of 30 minutes. You get the picture. By the end of the day, I was paid for a full day. After that day, neither the scheduler nor the management said a word about which bookkeeper was working, regardless of the schedule. Sister demands I show my laptop screen, ended up seeing what she didn't want to see, and changed her mind, by user pimsrirdit. To be straightforward, I, 24 at the time, draw explicit furry content as a second job. My sister, 22 at the time, and I shares the same house/room, typical of our culture, and she is obsessed with her privacy. Lots of crazy stuff such as locking me out of our room if I leave for too long, doesn't want me walking near her while she use laptop, get upset with me if I even glance at her laptop/phone. I put up with it since it doesn't bother me. That year, we change room. She choose the spot she want her desk to be in, the best spot, and she sit facing the wall, so her laptop is visible to me, who sit with my back to the wall. Kinda hard to explain without diagram, but I sit facing the room, as in I can see everything in the room from here. My sister doesn't like it. She demanded I turned my desk around so that I sit facing away from her, so she can see me all the time to make sure I'm not looking at her laptop. She already know what I do as my second job, but I decided to remind her again, and told her I work with explicit contents, but she insisted. After almost 2 weeks, she must have seen half a dozen furry characters in various predicaments, and things beyond her wildest imaginations. So, I tried moving my desk back to my previous, more private spot, facing her, to see if she's demand I change it back. She didn't. Didn't get complaint from her since. Stay in my lane? Okay, but it'll cost you, by Useronde the Honda. A few years ago I was the primary faculty advisor and chair for admissions to a highly competitive health science program at a small public college. While that may sound impressive, it's basically a way of saying I was the lowest on the totem pole, but had all of the responsibility overseeing admissions for this program. In order to try and make the department even stronger, they added a new degree option to that health science program that largely overlapped with existing classes. In fact, the only change they had to make was to add one 8-credit-hour course to make the new degree option. Since I was so low on the totem pole, I had no part in the process for this, but as the loan advisor, I had to learn all of the ins and outs of it so I could advise students and potential applicants. Because of this, I found a problem where the new class was added to the course schedule and added to the college catalog, but it was not officially added to the new major. This would cause trouble for financial aid and, down the road, when they apply for graduation. It may seem like a small thing, but if it's not officially required for the major, financial aid won't pay for it. I pointed this out to my supervisor, who thanked me for catching it and asked me to inquire about how we correct this. So I sent an email to someone, middle management, who might be able to help, asking questions and proposing possible short-term solutions until the curriculum committee could meet to make the changes official. After the email there was silence for a week. Therefore, I sent a follow-up email. The next morning I received an email from one of the VPs, chewing me out for overstepping my bounds, trying to make changes I didn't have authority to make, and a reminder that they know how to do their jobs and that I was expected to stay in my lane. This email included my supervisor, multiple deans, 2 department heads, and another VP. Fine. I dropped it. I was already looking for other jobs, and ended up leaving the following year, so what do I care? Fast forward 3 months, we were about 10 days away from this new class starting with the first cohort of 10 students in this new degree, and I started getting phone calls and emails from all over the place. The problem I pointed out still hadn't been fixed. Now the financial aid and registrar's offices are dealing with angry students who just found out each will have to pay for an 8-credit class out of pocket. Both departments were reaching out to me asking for help to get this fixed before the VP found out about it. I just forwarded the email I received from the VP with a message that I was instructed to stay out of this and that their bosses were aware that I was not to be involved. It's officially not my problem. And to anyone who might say I should have helped and not screwed over the students. You're right. Unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing I can do at that point. That's why I tried to address it months ago, when I could have helped. The proper way to make this happen involves making the proposed changes to a committee, then those changes would have to be approved by the executive board. For various reasons, this could not happen between then and the start of the class. So the VP contacted the state chancellor's office to see what kind of workaround the state would approve to get this done now. However, the college was denied any exceptions. In the end, the college ended up having to swallow the cost of this course for all 10 students. I don't remember how much it was, but it was no less than $25,000.